Republican Maricopa County Board Chair Bill Gates sent a message last week. The county board, which runs our elections, won't tolerate any attempts to interfere with voters or election workers. Reports of attempted interference are already coming in, and we're seeing a response. Welcome back to Square Off. It seems 2020 never ended. The election itself remains a major story in Maricopa County and around the state. Joining us to provide facts and context on several voting-related stories around Arizona is Jen Fifield. She's now a reporter covering elections and voting in Arizona for Vote Beat US. You may know Jen for her outstanding coverage for the Arizona Republic of the 2020 vote and Arizona Republicans' partisan election review. Welcome to Square Off.
Thank you so much for having me.
Great to have your insights. Let's start with our first story. An allegation of voter intimidation at a ballot drop box in Mesa resulted in the Arizona Secretary of State and referring the report, to the State Attorney General's office and the U.S. Department of Justice. So what happened here?
Well, as you know from your previous segment, 2000 Mules really spurred unfounded claims of people stuffing ballot boxes with ballots that weren't theirs, a form of ballot trafficking that's illegal under Arizona state law. So there's been this big movement. We need to watch these ballot boxes, make sure that people aren't doing this. That played out in Mesa with a potential case of voter intimidation, where they saw someone watching them. They saw that they were taking photos or video, and they sent in this complaint saying that they felt intimidated, which is illegal under federal law. And if it is found that they were intimidating a voter, they could go to prison for this.
Do you know how often cases like that are actually prosecuted?
I don't believe it's very common. There's other forms of voter intimidation that are more likely to happen than this in-person confrontation that we're seeing here. There's been charges in the past of people feeling intimidated by police presence at the polls. They feel like they don't want police there around them when they're trying to go do the right to vote. So this is almost the opposite. You have people feeling unsafe. Meanwhile, the county doesn't want to put sheriff's deputies outside of the poll for that reason. So they just kind of have to be on standby to come by if needed.
Okay, our second story to Maricopa County. Chairman Bill Gates was referring to photographers with Clean Elections USA, that's an organization linked to Steve Bannon, on the sidewalk outside the county elections headquarters. What are they doing there?
This is another form of what we're talking about, monitoring these drop boxes. They're with Clean Elections USA, and they're sitting there just watching people drop off the ballot drop boxes. Now Bill Gates is, at this point, a little tired of any type of voter intimidation or harassment going on for his workers, and he was just very adamant at this meeting that he's not going to take this anymore.
But they can't, they're on a sidewalk, it's a public space, they can do that.
They absolutely can, and if they are not talking to the voters, if they're not intimidating them in any way, if they're just looking at them. Now, it's legally dubious whether they can be taking photographs in their face, and it's just whatever makes someone feel intimidated. We're going to have to see if these complaints play out.
Story number 3, a problem with the wrong ballots being sent to Arizona voters. It involves the federal-only ballot, which most people don't get. A lot of numbers floating around. How many incorrect ballots were sent to voters? Do we know?
The Secretary of State's office has said she thinks it's under 1,000 ballots that were sent out that just have the federal races on this. Counties are going through these voter records right now to determine who is affected, reaching out, sending new ballots, and making sure that the voters know that they're not to cast this one that just has the 2 federal races. So I would say if you did get this ballot with 2 federal races, you call and you verify, am I allowed to vote in all the state elections? Because it is against the law to vote in state elections if you don't have documented proof of citizenship here, which is kind of what happened. And so they're just trying to tell people, just be aware that this is something that happened. We're figuring it out.
So double check your ballot. Finally, how concerned should voters be about this mistake?
As long as they're paying attention, they shouldn't be concerned at all. If they know that they're supposed to have the full ballot and they don't, it's an easy fix.
Jen Fifield, thank you so much for keeping us informed.